I have said before that Willow was one of my favorite movies from the 80s. When it came out, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. I have watched it many times since and will probably watch it many times in the future, despite what I've learned about the new Disney Plus show. The new Disney Plus show has nothing to do with Willow or fantasy or doing something to rescue someone like the first one did. The new Willow show on Disney Plus is a queer love story. That's right, you heard it right here. It is a queer love story. Disney's Willow puts a queer romance front and center. And it was just organic, says creator. A princess and a lady knight never got together in George Lucas's original, but for Jonathan Kasdan, it was an obvious next step. No, it was not an obvious next step. How about telling us the story of Willow? Obviously, Willow is a powerful sorcerer now in this new one. You've seen it in the trailers that Willow is able to wield magic. The movie or the Disney Plus show is called Willow. Make the story about Willow. Stop pushing your gay narrative. Oh my goodness, this is just hard. This is going to be hard to read. Oh, Jonathan Kasdan, who brings a sequel TV series of the same name to Disney Plus with a 2-episode premiere on November 30th. Warwick Davis returns as the eponymous aspiring sorcerer. Well, he doesn't seem to be aspiring since he's like in his 60s now, I think. Maybe 50s or 60s. As does a smattering of cast from the original film. But the series boasts a new main cast to suit the blend of 80s modern YA fantasy. This young adult, I had to look that up. I guess I missed out on that one. But YA stands for young adult fantasy that Kasdan and his collaborators have brought to bear. Young adults probably don't care about this because they probably have never seen Willow. This time, Willow is accompanied by a whole ensemble squad of mostly teenagers, each pulling and pushing against fantasy tropes that will be excitingly familiar to an audience in an era where D&D, that's Dungeons and Dragons, is mainstream, which I played many, many, many hours of Dungeons and Dragons, which is why I liked Willow, because it was a fantasy setting with monsters and knights and swords and sword fights and sorceresses. YA fiction is full of plucky heroes and heroines. The role of Laura Dannon, she was the baby in the first one. If you've never seen it, she was the one that had to be protected. She was basically the chosen one. And she was destined to save the world, has been kept under tight wraps. God knows what she'll be. She'll probably be. They'll probably change her name to Edward Dannon, and she'll identify as a male. God only knows. Willow's two mains are Kit and Dove, both young women who wrestle with the legacy of Laura Dannon. But Kit's own Bill Stroman, I have no idea what that means, may come to overshadow Dove's in conversations about the show. As a good part of her journey is realizing that she's in mutual love with her best friend in a long overdue and welcome development for fantasy cinema, television, and the Disney Corporation itself. This is not welcome, and it's not overdue. It doesn't even need to be in this story. The story should be about the fantasy. It should be about doing something to save someone, to go somewhere and do something. Not about two women that have fallen in love and are pushing all of the other characters, including Willow, who is supposed to be the main protagonist in this story, into the background so that we can explore their relationship. Kit, a tomboy princess, a self-centered tomboy princess, that makes sense. the egotists and narcissists are people who are pushing this narrative anyway, who spends most of the series dressed like the Dread Pirate Roberts, and Jade, an orphan girl who wants to become her country's first female knight, are as though someone took an everyday tomboy fantasy heroine in the YA literature canon, tossed them in a blender, and flipped a bad, mad scientist lever from subtext to text. Polygon sat down with Kasdan to talk first and foremost about being the first true franchise on Disney Plus to really center on a queer story, and also about weird movies from the 1980s. So they are confirming 100% that this movie will be centered on a queer love story and not on Willow himself or the fantasy trope. Uh, and here's the interview. How did a queer relationship come to be the core of the show? When did it enter the process, and was there any pushback? Jonathan Kasdan, there was no pushback. What's interesting is I hope and I believe we're at a moment where you're going to see a paradigm shift in that. Well, pal, if we do see a paradigm shift in that, you can 100% be sure that you're going to lose all of your freaking money. Because people just don't want to see this. Bros proved it. Strange World proved it. Lightyear proved it. All three of those movies were based on a gay narrative. They had Lightyear not as much as the other two, but Bros was a total gay shit show, and no one went to see it, and it lost massive amounts of money. Strange World is a Disney property that includes a gay teenager and his gay romance with another gay teenager, and it has lost incredible amounts of money, and it's looking like it's not even going to come close to its $120 million budget. And that 120 million doesn't even include marketing or any other type of stuff like that. So it's going to actually end up losing more. Like they're predicting like $185 million. So this is that right here is a perfect reason why Disney Plus has lost over $1.5 billion, not million, billion, $1.5 billion in streaming revenue, because they keep pushing this woke narrative that people just are not interested in seeing. When I first heard that they were making a Willow sequel, I was excited because Willow was something that I liked. But the more and more I heard about it, I'm not even going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. Let's see. We're going to see a paradigm shift, and hopefully the way that it's going to happen is that these kinds of queer stories, particularly like this one, that were just organic to the narrative we were telling, find their way in, and it becomes less of a surprising and unusual thing to see. Why is this organic to this? Why? You got 3 men, 3 women. You could have just made the women, one of the women could have been a sorcerer, one of the women could have been a warrior. There's nothing wrong with a warrior woman. We've seen it plenty of times. But you didn't have to make the 2 women in your damn narrative and your damn story fall in love. You just didn't. You didn't have to have a love story, period. You didn't have to have any kind of relationships, period. Just make a damn show about going out and doing whatever that they have to do and getting it done, and put some action in there, put some fun in there, put some battles in there, and then end it. Because it's part of the landscape of the world around us, just like the diversity elements of casting. I mean, they're just hitting all the woke buttons here. If you look at the original Widow, by no fault of anyone, it's not very diverse. And as we enter 2022, the world has changed, and the way we're absorbing entertainment and the faces we're reflecting in entertainment have just expanded enormously, and we hope the show can be growing as the world grows, just as frankly the movie was. Oh, goodness. So, this show is not. If you want to see a show about two women getting together and doing their thing and falling in love, then by all means watch this show. If you want to see a show that is going to explain to you uh, what Willow did later on in his life and what he has to do to rescue someone or do whatever needs to be done to help someone, then don't bother. Because this is just going to be another failure from Disney that they're going to stick out there. The critics are going to love it because that's what they do when it's a Disney property. The fans are going to hate it, but Disney's not going to allow people to know that the fans hate it because they will manipulate the user reviews, the fan reviews. But you can guarantee that based on the performance of Lightyear, Bros, and Strange World, no one's going to be watching this. For one thing, kids these days, they don't even know who Willow is. They probably know the actor because he played a character in Harry Potter. They may know him just barely because he had a lot to do with Star Wars. But they're not going to watch this because Warwick Davis is in it and he was Professor Flitwick. That's the only reason that they might know this. Obviously, you have the actor from Spider-Man and the actress from the shit show that was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Freckled Jesus over there. So, people aren't going to watch this based on memory. At least young people. They have no memory of the Willow movie. And also, people aren't going to watch it because of the gay romance. They're not interested in that. Straight people just aren't interested in that. People like myself are more interested in an epic fantasy story and not what you do with your queer baiting gay characters. If you like what you heard, please don't forget to smash that like button and share this video out there to all your friends. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will see you next time.